Hello, this is Pete Brown. Today we're going to be painting an Alla Prima landscape in oil. Here I am using an old canvas that I've painted over and toned up a bit. I'm just going to start mapping in the landscape. Alla Prima means wet on wet. It's a very quick, spontaneous style. In oil paint, you can work in layers, and you can literally put wet paint on top of wet paint you've just put down, and it'll stick and look great, and you get a more vibrant, spontaneous look. So here I am just mapping out the tree, which is going to be the main subject of this landscape. Painting just from my imagination, putting in shadows and highlights, using a flat angled brush and a palette knife. Those are my two main tools. If you don't use a palette knife, I do recommend that you start using one because they're really fun and they're an incredible shortcut for special effects and putting on paint quickly and putting in straight lines. It's a great tool to have in your painter's toolbox along with your brushes. You can see I can just, with a knife, I can just pop in shadows and highlights, and here I am using the brush to blend the lights and the shadows very quickly. I may paint over this later, but it's helping me see the tree and where I want to go with it. I'm going to have a big branch coming out to the right, and then a branch to the left will be sort of in the background, so we won't see it as clearly. Again, the knife just adds straight lines and curved lines very easily. Keep in mind that a tree trunk is essentially a cylinder. So you curve it like that. You put whatever, depending on your light source. On here it's the right side, but I like to put the lights in the middle and then a bit of a shadow on either side of the cylinder, and then blend them together to make it appear rounded in this two-dimensional surface. Again, we're trying to essentially create the 3D effect on 2D. And I'm really only using four colors: a brownish red, white, a bright peach color, and a cerulean blue. Just four colors that'll keep the painting unified. I keep reinforcing sort of the contour lines of where I'm going. I may paint over this, just adding little details. It's all improvisation, so I'm not quite sure where it's going yet, but that's part of the fun of it. I'm also sort of interested in the Post-Impressionist palette, so not really interested in completely realistic earth tone colors, which is why I like the blue as a mid-tone. It adds a nice flavor with the brown. Blue and brown is a nice harmony. Here I am just roughing in some sky with my palette knife and then using the flat brush just to blend it, just to get some atmospheric effects. See where that'll go. I'm using a little bit of a thinner, like Galkid or linseed oil, just to help smooth the paint and make it spread more easily. I use a lot of linseed oil. It's my preference. And just keep reinforcing where those lines are. Adding a bit of a horizon in there, and here I am just sort of starting to rough in some clouds on that horizon line, and now popping in some sky, some blue sky. Sky doesn't have to be blue. You can do sky tones in many different colors and it'll look successful, but Here the blue is what I'm using on the tree as a midtone, so the blue sky is a nice harmony with the reddish brown. And you'll notice again with the wet on wet, I keep painting over the skies many times, putting the wet paint over the wet paint. That's the Alla Prima. Again, it's a very vibrant look. Not too studied, not overworked. I'm trying to get this done in just 1 or 2 sessions. Working very quickly. Obviously the video is sped up a bit, but still working very quickly. I plan to put in no more than an hour and a half on this entire painting. And there's a little bright green on the grass too, and here's a Naples yellow, and there's a little bright spring green in there too. Here I'm just painting, I'm improvising, just suggesting ideas to myself, trying them out, putting in grass shapes and taking them out if I don't like them. Trying to break the color field with different tones, not just one solid color. Of course, as things move further away, they get fainter. Your brighter colors, your bolder colors should be closer to the bottom and closer to the viewer. And as they get further away, they should get fainter. Just using the palette knife for some quick little effects. There's that bright Jean peach color, which is a great highlight. I like to put on highlights by rolling my brush, just randomly. Just let the highlights fall where they do. More palette knife highlights, a little blending. I've added a darker green here, which really adds some real depth to the tree, gives it some real mass and weight, so it really feels like it's sitting there. Not too much, just a little bit. It's very easy to put on too much of a good color, but you really only need a little bit of these strong accent colors just to give you a sense of mass and dimension and highlight. I'm going back and working on the sky a little more paint. Keep cleaning up those lines. With clouds, you don't want to make them too crisp. You don't want the lines too clean. A cloud is a gaseous body, so you want it to be kind of have a fuzzier line and highlights, but not. I've found that if you overwork your clouds, they get pretty stiff looking pretty fast. So clouds is almost the less you put into it, the better they look. I'm thinking about the shadow of the tree. If the sun is coming from the right side, then there's got to be some sort of shadow on the left side behind the tree. I tried a brown, now I'm trying a blue shadow, which I think is better. I took out those flowers, but I'm going to pop them back in now. Not that difficult. You'll notice as I paint, I take out things I've already painted because I've changed my mind, and nothing is permanent yet. Just trying different ideas, blending them in. Keep reinforcing that horizon line. It might stay in, it might not, but it's almost like a map. You're creating a map or a path for yourself to follow. Now, as I come back to the second session, I've made a big decision. There's a branch on the right that really has been bothering me, so I've simply decided to take it out. Quick decision, but I really encourage you, if something's not working in your composition, to deal with it drastically. Take it out, adjust it. This is just paint. You can repaint things. And if you notice that pretty quickly, the composition has just opened up dramatically. It breathes a little more. There's not as much clutter. And it just reads better as a composition. I'm just adding some highlights to the back branch, and since that's in the background and we don't need much color on that, not much detail, it's just an indication that it's there. Gives depth. Now I'm mostly done. Going to make some final adjustments here in hyperspeed. We've made the video quicker, but mostly what I'm doing here is just adding final shadows, final highlights, making some last decisions. Continually trying to bring the tree forward and create that depth of field that a cylinder would give you. A tree is a cylinder. We said that earlier. So you want to see that 3D effect. Adding some bottom shadows to feel the mass of the tree, and some shadows. This bottom right, I wanted to add something to the composition. So there's a sort of a grassy path that'll lead the viewer back into the horizon line. It's a device. Lead your eye into the painting. Since it's a sunny day and we've got that big branch, we're going to need a big shadow. So I wanted to add that under the tree. Some more shadows. It's a bright day. When you have a bright day, you've got dark shadows. And I just want to do some last adjustments on the clouds. Nothing too drastic. Again, you don't want to overwork your clouds. They can become labored and stiff. This is Alla Prima, wet on wet. We want to move fast. Want to capture the energy of the painting, of wet paint on wet paint. Just some final highlights here. This is a little dirty white paint just to add some textures. We're about done. It's really important at this stage to know when to stop, because you don't want to overwork it. Maybe come back in a few weeks and just do any final tweaks, but otherwise it's done. And here we have a perfectly satisfactory Alla Prima oil painting of a landscape. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video as much as I've enjoyed painting it. Thanks for coming.